It's Monday, October 19th, 2009, and it's got to be 420 somewhere in the world. I'm your host, Radical Russ Belville. Produced and distributed by the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws in Washington, D.C., this is your NORML Daily Audio Stash, the growing truth about cannabis. Welcome to the most popular podcast regarding marijuana in all of America and all the world, featuring interviews with scientists, politicians, doctors, prohibition policy activists, regular cannabis consumers, musicians, and NORML staff and NORML's board of directors, along with music and comedy no other podcast can offer. You can always find out more about our show at our website, stash.norml.org, and continue the education and conversation on our blog as well. We're ending marijuana prohibition with education, one listener at a time. The podcasting and blogging technology for the NORML Daily Audio Stash is provided by Red Aphid Interactive Media. For your professional web design needs, visit redaphid.com. Good day, Stashers, and welcome to the podcast. We begin a new era here on the NORML Daily Audio Stash in that I now have an editor. That's right. Our friend Jack, who emailed me, just wanted to get involved and volunteer his abilities with Audacity and the audio recording stuff that we do here at the Stash. And we worked out a deal where I can just record the news stories, send them off to Jack. He inserts them into the template for the Daily Audio Stash. Next thing you know, you're listening to it. So that's really going to help me out a lot and will help me to get the stashes up at a reasonable time of day each day as well. So thank you, Jack, so much for volunteering for duty. And believe me, the benefits will accrue. All sorts of fun we're going to have as the months go on. For anyone else out there that has any sort of web design, news writing, or audio video skills, and you want to volunteer to help out in our mission here at the Daily Audio Stash, or with NORML Show Live, just send me an email at stash@norml.org. This all comes together through a coalition of many willing and able volunteers and sponsors, and we could use all the help we can get. So if you want to get involved, just send me that email, stash@norml.org, and we'll make sure that you're rewarded for your work as well in the form of T-shirts, NORML swag, and special admittance to our NORML events. You can ask Larry Kirk, who volunteered for photography for Oregon NORML. He volunteered to assist me with photography for the NORML National Conference and says it was one of the greatest events of his life. So just let me know. We'd love to get you involved.
It only comes twice a day, but I don't care. It's 420 somewhere.
It's time to look at our cannabis community calendar, which you can find online at norml.org/calendar. Today, Monday, October 19th, Kansas City NORML is having their open meeting at the Westport Coffee House at 4010 Pennsylvania Avenue in Kansas City, Missouri, and the Ohio Patient Network is having their meeting. You can check out the locations by visiting the calendar at norml.org. As we approach the weekend, on Friday, October 23rd, is the Cypress Hill Smokeout in San Bernardino, California. I will be there appearing on a Saturday panel entitled Free the Weed, Legalization Now. We'll also be broadcasting NORML Show Live from the Cypress Hill Smokeout the next day. Check out more information on that at guerrillaunion.com/smokeout. And Saturday, October 24th, Oregon NORML has their twice-monthly cardholder meeting at the Village Ballroom at 700 Northeast Deacom in Portland, Oregon. It is only open to Oregon Medical Marijuana Program cardholders. For more information, visit ornorml.org. And also on Saturday, NORML Nebraska is having their open meeting in Omaha. This will be at McFoster's Natural Kind Cafe on South 38th Street. For more information, please check out norml.org/calendar. And if you'd like to get your events listed on the Cannabis Community Calendar, please send us an email at stash@norml.org. It's a NORML shout-out. Our shout-outs today go to the state of Arizona. We've already got 2 great NORML chapters there in Tucson and Phoenix, but Arizona is a big state and they've got a medical marijuana initiative coming up, so we'd like to have more NORML chapters across the state in places like Flagstaff and Tempe and other locations in Arizona. To check out the information on the existing NORML chapters in Arizona, visit norml.org/chapters and click on Arizona in the list of states. You'll find their websites, phone numbers, and email addresses. But if you'd like to get involved in starting your own chapter, just check out the Form a New Chapter link. It's really pretty easy. You just get 5 people together to form your board who all join NORML. You form a nonprofit organization in your state and apply for affiliation with NORML. From that point on, it's up to you to determine how you want to spread the growing truth about cannabis. For more information, send me an email at stash@norml.org. Now, coming up on our daily audio stash, we begin with your hemp headlines, which start with the Obama administration's official memorandum to the DEA and federal prosecutors that they will not prosecute those medical marijuana providers and patients in states where they are obeying the state law. We take another look at a stiletto stoner story, this one from 2008, and an article in Elle magazine that details a young professional woman who uses cannabis to treat her general anxiety disorder. And some interesting news from the Oakland airport, where we find a little-known policy that allows medical marijuana patients to take their medicine on the airplane. In our daily Toker Tunes, we're continuing our best of look back at tunes that have been played previously on the stash, while Tam from Marijuana Music Awards takes the month off to get ready for the 2010 Marijuana Music Awards. Today's tune is by Seattleite Aaron English, and it's called Like Smoke. Then for our cannabis conversations, we feature 20 minutes of the keynote address from Rick Steves, the PBS travel guru and author of best-selling European travel guides. Rick talks about the differences between American and European views on marijuana and tells some interesting stories, like getting high on hash in Morocco while leading a tour group. If you'd like to hear the entire keynote address, you can find it on our special events feed, which is on the right sidebar at stash@norml.org. All that and more coming up on your NORML Daily Audio Stash.
Hello, I'm Paul Stanford from the Hemp and Cannabis Foundation, or THCF. Medical marijuana is legal in 13 states today, and THCF has clinics in 8 of those states. Our doctors help qualified patients obtain an authorization for medical marijuana in their state. Patients are eligible for medical marijuana with a history of either severe chronic pain and or nausea, cancer, AIDS or HIV, hepatitis, glaucoma, seizure disorders like epilepsy, chronic muscle spasms such as multiple sclerosis or asthma, neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's, and gastrointestinal disorders like IBS or Crohn's disease. If you or someone you know has one of these conditions, our doctors will help you obtain a permit for medical marijuana. THCF Medical Clinics has offices in Washington State, Oregon, California, Colorado, Hawaii, Nevada, Montana, and now Michigan. Call 1-800-723-0188 or go to the web at hemp.org or 1-800-723-0188.
Now it's time to take a look at the latest stories about marijuana from news organizations across America and around the world in our NORML Daily Audio Stash, Hemp Headlines. It's official. Obama administration will not raid state-compliant medical marijuana facilities. From the Huffington Post, Washington, D.C. The Obama administration will not seek to arrest medical marijuana users and suppliers as long as they conform to state laws, under new policy guidelines to be sent to federal prosecutors Monday. 2 Justice Department officials described the new policy to the Associated Press, saying prosecutors will be told it is not a good use of their time to arrest people who use or provide medical marijuana in strict compliance with state laws. The new policy is a significant departure from the Bush administration, which insisted it would continue to enforce federal anti-pot laws regardless of state codes. A 3-page memo spelling out the policy is expected to be sent Monday to federal prosecutors in the 14 states and also to top officials at the FBI and the Drug Enforcement Administration. The memo, the official said, emphasizes that prosecutors have wide discretion in choosing which cases to pursue, and says it is not a good use of federal manpower to prosecute those who are without a doubt in compliance with state law. At the same time, the official said, the government will still prosecute those who use medical marijuana as a cover for other illegal activity. The memo particularly warns that some suspects may hide old-fashioned drug dealing or other crimes behind a medical marijuana business. In particular, the memo urges prosecutors to pursue marijuana cases which involve violence, the illegal use of firearms, selling pot to minors, money laundering, or other crimes. This is a fantastic development that puts onto paper what Obama and Attorney General Holder have already said previously. However, remember that according to San Diego District Attorney Dumanis, dispensaries are, quote, nothing more than for-profit storefront drug dealing operations run by drug dealers hiding behind the state's medical marijuana law, end quote. According to Los Angeles District Attorney Cooley, quote, about 100% of dispensaries, end quote, are not in strict compliance with state laws. In other words, does Obama's memo rely on the feds to decide whether someone is following state law, or will the DEA come a-running every time some anti-pot district attorney has a harebrained theory that all dispensaries are illegal? Time will tell. What we really need is to have this policy enshrined into law. Please, call your federal representatives today and urge them to co-sponsor H.R. 2835, the Medical Marijuana Patient Protection Act. You can also visit stash.normal.org, where we have links that take you to NORML's Take Action Center, where you can easily put in your zip code and email your federal representatives. Another Stiletto Stoner story. Elle Magazine on marijuana as anxiety relief. We reported on Marie Claire Magazine with their Stiletto Stoner story, followed by a sympathetic follow-up on the NBC Today show. Well, we looked back in the archives and found from 2008 this article from Elle Magazine, where they printed 2,758 words from another Stiletto Stoner who has discovered that cannabis is a superior medication for her generalized anxiety disorder compared to the Zoloft and Paxil her doctors had recommended. Elle Magazine. A thimbleful is all it takes. After a day's work, I pinch off a small amount of marijuana and put it in a steel tooth grinder. The flowers, covered in tiny white diamonds of THC, release a piney scent when crushed. I turn on the TV, and instead of taking a glass of wine with my evening news, I take out my vaporizer and set it on the coffee table. One could say I diagnosed myself in high school when I recognized my symptoms in a psychology textbook. Finally, I had generalized anxiety disorder to describe the dread I felt of some future event that was overtaking my present. I usually sensed the panic attacks first in my chest. Then my vision would start to go static, and my body would crumple to the floor. There I'd ride it out until the adrenaline ran its course. Soon after, I started to suffer several of these episodes a day, and so often that fear of another one kept me indoors. I sought out a psychiatrist. I told her about the times I'd be driving and convinced myself that I was about to spin off the road. The looping invented terrors. A little talk therapy and a prescription later, I discovered that Zoloft only exacerbated my panic and depression. I stopped taking the little white pills and cut out caffeine instead. I exercised and practiced meditation. For years, I abstained from medication, and aside from the occasional pot smoking with friends, I swore off drugs entirely. About 4 years ago, another psychiatrist put me on lithium for what he described as my Paxil-induced hypomania. When it made me violently sick, I decided I needed to replace pills altogether and turned to a regimen that relied on what was, to me, the only proven drug. I headed down to the 5-block stretch of marijuana advocacy groups known as Oaksterdam. There, I explained to an understanding doctor, wearing Lennon glasses and cargo shorts, that marijuana eased the symptoms of what studies showed and I knew to be a genetic disorder. My 2 younger brothers have been diagnosed as bipolar, and my grandmother suffered from anxiety and depression. The writer continues by explaining how she's able to keep her job and be productive thanks to marijuana, and that her friends that use marijuana are all successful, productive people she's proud to know. She worries about the legal complexities, especially how the California Raging Wire decision still allows employers to fire people for their medical use. From a media standpoint, I believe when you're having women speak favorably of marijuana in Marie Claire, The Today Show, and Elle magazine, you're winning the hearts and minds. Oakland International Airport allows medical users to fly with up to 8 ounces of marijuana. From the Contra Costa Times. Oakland International Airport may be the nation's only airport with a specific policy letting users of medical marijuana travel with the drug. The policy is spelled out in a 3-page document quietly enacted last year by the Alameda County Sheriff's Office. It states that if deputies determine someone is a qualified patient or primary caregiver, as defined by California law, and has 8 ounces or less of the drug, he or she can keep it and board the plane. Deputies warn the pot-carrying passengers that they may be committing a felony upon arrival when they set foot in a jurisdiction where medical marijuana is not recognized, but they say they don't call ahead to alert authorities on the other end. Okay, maybe, just maybe, I could be convinced to fly in an airplane again. However, while Oakland may be the only airport with a written policy, I have a report from a medical patient in Oregon that Portland International will allow a cardholder to board a plane with up to that state's legal limit of possession, or 24 ounces. All I'm saying is that I've found the specially infused, non-Kellogg's variety Rice Krispie treats are perfect for long flights. Easily packed in a carry-on, innocuous looking, a sweet snack before takeoff, a dreamy nap in a pressurized tube hurtling through the sky at 500 miles per hour. Very nice.
Are you or is someone you know a marijuana smoker? Have you or is someone in your family been arrested for a marijuana violation? You need to know the truth about pot. NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, is the most comprehensive source of information regarding marijuana and its effects on health, as well as legal issues. NORML even offers a database of lawyers specializing in cannabis in your area. NORML, the nation's largest and most successful marijuana law reform organization, has spent decades gathering the knowledge and science on everything related to cannabis. NORML is the best resource to find out the truth about marijuana, connect with a lawyer in your area, or help find an end to prohibition. Information is available at norml.org, that's NORML.org, or toll free at 888-67-NORML.
The battle to end adult marijuana prohibition can sometimes seem endlessly frustrating and impossible to overcome. One way we bond as a community and draw strength to continue is by rejuvenating our spirit through art and music. The Marijuana Music Awards exist to recognize those sonic artists in all genres of music who feature a ganja-friendly message to motivate and inspire all the cannabis community. Our daily Toker tunes, brought to you by MarijuanaMusicAwards.com, feature the finest in blues, rock, jazz, hip-hop, rap, reggae, country, bluegrass, and dance music to enhance that 420 feeling while promoting the message of reform. To donate your song for possible use on the stash, enter it in the next Marijuana Music Awards contest today. We continue our look back at the best of the Daily Toker tunes while Tam is off this month preparing for the 2010 Marijuana Music Awards. This tune debuted on the stash back in April of 2008, and it is Seattle's own Aaron English with a song called Like Smoke. I don't think the song is really about marijuana in any way whatsoever, but I so dig the Middle Eastern sounds in this tune, and the chorus just sticks in my head every time I've heard it. You've heard parts of this tune as background for some of our promos here on the stash, so I felt it was time to give you the whole song once again for your listening pleasure. This is another great tune from our friends at Podshow, and for more information on Aaron English, see music.podshow.com. And registered stashers, you can get an MP3 download of this tune It's Aaron English with Like Smoke.
I had a head full of trouble, I was coming undone. Everything I did or didn't do, ever wanted to was wrong. But the haze is burning away in the heat of the sun, and the wind is lifting me, and my life has just begun.
Drift away on the wind like smoke, like smoke. Drift on the wind like smoke, yeah. Drift away on the wind like smoke, like smoke. Drift on the wind like smoke, yeah. Drift away on the wind like smoke, like smoke. Drift on the wind like smoke, yeah. Drift away on the wind like smoke, like smoke. Drift on the wind like smoke, yeah.
There is a peaceful solution called a peace revolution. And now let's take back America.
Hi, this is Willie Nelson. Like millions of freedom-loving Americans, I'm a marijuana smoker, and I don't think that should be any of the government's business. There's absolutely nothing wrong with the responsible use of marijuana. The next time you light up, take the time to let your elected officials know how you feel. It's time we legalize marijuana and stop treating marijuana smokers like criminals. For more information on how you can help legalize marijuana, please contact NORML at norml.org.
legalization, decriminalization, lowest law enforcement priority, medical marijuana, ganja sacrament, consumer cannabis, industrial hemp. The world of marijuana law reform involves many different aspects of cannabis that intersect nearly every public policy discussion in America, including healthcare, the economy, global climate change, law enforcement and prisons, immigration, religion, free speech, energy policy, and war. Now we take a look at how re-legalizing marijuana will change the world in our normal daily audio stash, Cannabis Conversations. For our Cannabis Conversations today, we bring you the first portion of Rick Steves' keynote address that concluded the NORML National Conference last month in San Francisco, California. If you'd like to hear the entire keynote speech, you can visit our special events feed, which you'll find on the right-hand side at stash.norml.org. Rick Steves, of course, is the PBS Travel Series host and the author of many best-selling travel books on Europe. Here is Rick Steves from NormalCon.
Thank you, Alan. It's great to be here. In preparation for having a chance to share some ideas with you, a couple days ago I had dinner with a leading policeman in my city who's working on narcotics issues, and I learned a lot from him. And I think it's good to inject a little bit of what's the mindset of the people who are standing between us and victory in this war against the prohibition against marijuana. And I realized he's a good man. He cares about our communities just like we do. And he marveled at all the energy I put into this. And at the end of the dinner, he said, "Why are you doing this?" He'd been to take my talks. He'd been taking notes. He knows I'm putting stuff on the line. I'm traveling all over the country to talk about this. And he also knows I live in a part of the country where I can smoke pot for the rest of my life. I can send emails to my friends and invite them over to smoke pot, and it's no risk. Why do I care? And at first it kind of stumped me. And then I thought about it a little more because it really stuck with me. And I thought, you know, I'm a travel writer. And for me, high is a place. And there better be a very good reason for my government to say I can't go there. And there is no reason. We should be able to go there if we want to. I simply have enjoyed smoking marijuana all of my adult life. And I've got a lot of friends who are very respected in our community who smoke a lot of just recreational pot. I mean, they're not, they're not high all the time, but whenever they want to socially smoke some pot, they do. And they live double lives. They're hiding it. And I just thought this is insulting. It's absolutely insulting, a law that makes good people criminals. And I've been thinking about this for 20 years, really, and I've been working with NORML for close to a decade. And it's so clear to me that the responsible adult use of marijuana as a recreational drug is flat out a civil liberty. And, this policeman had gone to one of my talks, and I gave a talk, and it was an hour-long talk on this issue, and he said he disagreed with almost everything I said, except for the fact that this is a civil liberty. And if we can figure out a way to enjoy our civil liberties without causing a problem, I think law enforcement wouldn't have any, the public in general, the feared people would have no problem with this. We need to be smart about this. We need to think, how can we establish our civil liberties without scaring people over the downside of pot? And what are the downsides? Well, people think that abuse of drugs is harmful to society, and it is. Drug abuse, marijuana abuse, causes harm. It causes harm to people who can't handle it. It causes harm to other people who get in the way if they do something because they're intoxicated. We need to acknowledge that. I think that while you and I might be able to handle it, I think they want to hear out there that we acknowledge that it can be at least psychologically addictive to people with weaker characters. I think we need to acknowledge that if we're going to get people to listen to us. Invariably, people will drive when they are drunk or high and hurt people. Of course, you may think differently, but that's not going to sell out on Main Street. We need to acknowledge the fact that if you drink while intoxicated on anything, we should be the first people to say, they should throw the book at us if we hurt somebody. And we need to respect the fact that parents and police are passionate about the safety and the well-being of children. We need to acknowledge that, and we need to respect it, and we need to be aggressive and proactive in accommodating these fears. Parents are scared to death about this. So You know, a lot of this get-together is just a pep rally for all of us activists who aren't afraid by it, and we know that it's just a cool thing. But the fact is, half of our society out there is afraid of it, and we need to understand what makes them tick. I'd love to talk about all the numbers that we know and the incarceration figures, and use doesn't go up, and it's just a parallel to alcohol prohibition, but I think we all know that stuff right now. So in this talk, I'm just going to share my take on it as a travel writer, as a Europhile, and as somebody who, in mainstream community, as a business and community leader, has spoken out on this proudly, and what it's like, and what have I learned, and what are the pitfalls, and so on. My work is, as a travel writer, to bring a European sensitivity home to the United States. And I find that when you travel and you leave our country, you can see the challenges and the beauties and the bad side of our country in high contrast. It's so helpful to go away and look back, and then you can see stuff. And one thing I see is a real jolt when I come back home here in the land that prides itself in being the land of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We're about the most uptight country on this planet. We really are. And, you know, you get home and you realize we're living here in a country that has the shortest vacations in the rich world. Europeans know that if they worked as hard as we did, the last day they would need to go to work every year is October 24. The rest of the year would be vacation time. We're working ourselves crazy here, and we don't even think twice about it. It's fascinating to me, and it's not good for my business because I'm selling vacations. I've got a friend who's a Greek. He spent most of his life in the United States working, and then he retired and went back to the old country like a lot of Greeks do. When he went back to Greece after 20 years in the east coast of the United States, he realized he never once took a nap while he was in the United States. It just wasn't an option. Now he goes home and he realizes, hey, if you're a little sleepy in the afternoon, you take a nap. Doesn't matter if it's bad for business, you're sleepy, take a nap, it's okay. I was just in Germany, and when I'm in Europe, I'm crossing paths with all of our tours. I met one of our group leaders in Baden-Baden, famous for its spa, mineral spa, and I'm excited as a tour guide to get Americans naked with Germans. It's just it's a souvenir they'll never forget. And I was saying to the guide, aren't you excited? Your group's going to go to the spa tonight, and have you prepared them for it and everything? And they said, none of the Americans are going. It was the German guy who works for me, but he was just said, we've given up on Americans. They're so uptight about nudity, they can't take their clothes off at a spa with Germans. The last thing a German's going to do is look at an American's private parts, okay? It's just not a big deal over there, but Americans can't handle it. I make TV shows, and believe it or not, I have to concern myself with how much frontal nudity I'm going to show when it comes to making a TV show of 500-year-old canvas breasts painted by Titian, or a 2,000-year-old marble penis. You can't show that and run your show before 10 p.m. in some markets of this country. That's kind of perverse, I would say. So I'm trying to bring home a sensitivity to this kind of thing from a European perspective. And of course, when it comes to drugs, that's a whole similar situation. I got friends in Barcelona. Friday evening, kids are in bed. Their friends get together. They relax with a joint. And they know they're not going to be drug tested on Monday. It's just a way of life in Europe, and it's just not a big deal. I come back to the United States, and I realize we are living a lot of lies. We are embracing a lot of lies. And the evil of the responsible use of marijuana is one lie too many. That's why I'm in this. I believe that the war on marijuana is a wrong-minded prohibition of our generation. I think it's costly in many ways, and it's proven to be counterproductive in even what it's trying to accomplish. And we all know, with the stroke of a pen, our government could put an end to America's favorite illegal pastime. They could legalize it. And of course, then they could regulate it and tax it. We could enjoy it, and they could focus what they should be doing on the problems of drug abuse, whether it's people who can't handle their alcohol or their marijuana or their hard drugs. That's what we need to do with our drug policy.
90 seconds.
Now, as a travel writer, well, I think when I think about why am I here today, why would I spend a couple of days here learning about this, I can blame my travel writing. I've spent a third of my life living in Europe out of a carry-on-the-airplane-sized suitcase with my money belt. And I've been surrounded by people who find different truths to be self-evident and God-given. People who don't have the American dream, they've got the Bulgarian dream or the Norwegian dream or the Moroccan dream. And I celebrate that. It's really quite cool. And I've developed a European perspective. And I can come home and remind people that, wow, travel humbles us in our self-assuredness. It wipes out our ethnocentricity. We find that people do things differently, and that's something that's pretty fun. I always thought this meant yes, but in Bulgaria, this means yes. That can cause confusion when you're in Bulgaria. Can I go here? Yes. Okay, well, what do you really mean? Yes, go there. All right. In France, slow service is good service. That's kind of fun to figure out. Hey, take all the time you want. We're not trying to turn the tables. I was in Japan once, very cold. They don't have central heating. I was there in the middle of the winter. Got up, had to go to the bathroom, slipped on my too small kimono, slipped into my little slippers that my heels were hanging out the edge, shuffled gingerly down the hall, kind of dreading. You could see your breath. It was so cold. Dreading sitting on the toilet in the middle of that dark night in the mountains of Japan. Sat down on that toilet, and the seat was heated. And I just thought, travel is so cool. People do things differently. Who'd ever think about heating the toilet seat and not the whole room? All right, you learn, you go home. Travel also addresses your fears. Think of how much fear there is in our society. There's fear about everywhere you look, there's fear. That's how people take advantage of you. And there's certainly a lot of fear when it comes to the issue of drug use and drug abuse. In my travels, I find that the flip side of fear is understanding. When you understand something, you fear it less. I went to Iran a year ago, and I was afraid to go to Iran. I came within this far of leaving my big expensive camera in Athens, and we'd take our little sneak camera in there because I thought people would be throwing stones at us in the streets of Tehran once they knew we were an American film crew. I got over there. I've never received such a friendly welcome in my whole life, especially when they knew we were Americans. I was a little concerned about this death to America business. I was stuck in a traffic jam in Tehran. A lot of traffic jams in Tehran. A lot of traffic jams. Suddenly, my driver just bursts out, "Death to traffic." I thought, what? I thought it was death to America or death to Israel. I said, no, here in Iran, anytime anything's frustrating to us and out of our control, we say death to that. I suppose it's death to election fraud these days, you know. It's just a very interesting way to go there and learn that you don't need to be as afraid of death to America as you think as they want you to be afraid of. I was in Iran wondering what makes these people tick. We're a little bit nervous by what makes Iranian ticks. Do they want to nuke us or something? A woman crossed the street and pounds her finger on my chest and say, "We're united, we're strong, and we want you to go home and tell the truth. We don't want our children to be raised like Britney Spears." They're scared to death that their little kids are going to become boy toys and drug addicts and crass materialists. They're threatened by some foreign influence coming into their society and changing their family values. Wow, I learned they're as manipulated by propaganda with fear as we are. And we're all motivated by fear and love. We need to overcome that fear. And when you travel, you can overcome fear. A lot of us see these whirling dervishes, and they're freaky Muslim monks, and they whirl until they get dizzy, and then what are they going to do? Then you talk to one of them, and you realize, oh, I didn't know what's going on. They plant one foot in their hometown, the other foot goes around and around, acknowledging the beauty and the variety and the diversity on this beautiful planet. They raise one arm up to accept the love of their Creator, and the other arm goes down to pour God's love on all of His beautiful creation. They spin in that circle, they get into a beautiful trance, and they meditate on that beautiful thought. Suddenly, those freaky whirling monks aren't so scary. Suddenly, it's a beautiful thing. When you travel, it carbonates your life. You look at things from a different perspective. And I believe many of us, when we enjoy marijuana, it carbonates our life. It allows us to look at things with a different perspective. And like travel, it broadens our perspectives. It can be a good thing for that reason. Now, I'm a travel writer, and my job is, I get to decide what my job is because I'm self-employed, and I define my job as bringing home realities and invade Americans' comfort zones. We tend to be very comfortable. We don't want to be too stimulated. And as a travel writer, I get to go over there, learn about foie gras, learn about the force feeding of the geese, film it, come home, and make people watch it. Force feeding of the geese, the foie gras. And people are just, you can't treat geese like that. Stuff them with corn 4 times a day until their livers grow from 1/4 of a pound to 2 pounds, and then slaughter them and eat the beautiful livers. I say, yes, you can. They're delicious. And they say, well, that's not nice. And I say, well, what are we doing to our chickens? And then I say, those French, they realize those geese are designed to gorge, build big livers so they can migratory fly all the way to Egypt. And one day, centuries ago, a Frenchman caught one of those geese with a fat liver on his way to Egypt, slaughtered it, ate the liver, and thought, this is délicieux. And they thought, hey, we could save these geese the trip to Egypt and eat their livers right here. Well, that's foie gras. That's a different look at foie gras. I have a matter of principle when it comes to bringing home realities that I will not take a group to Germany without going to a concentration camp. I want to honor the wish of the victims of the Holocaust that we never forget. So that's an ethic. A lot of people say, I don't want to know about that. You got to know about it. I'm sorry, I'm taking you there. I won't take a group to Ireland without going to Northern Ireland because I want people to know the consequences of a political initiative designed to plant people from one country to another to establish your rule and control of a region. London planted Protestants from Scotland into Ireland. Today, Ireland has bloodshed. Russia planted Russians into Estonia. Today, Estonia's got problems. Israel plants settlers in Palestine. These are problems people will be reaping and dealing with for generations. And we need to learn that in our travels. A lot of people are afraid of other religions. It's fun to get into people's comfort zones that way. I come from a Christian family. We say thank you every time we eat. When my son was 4 years old, my grandpa would come over, who's scared to death about Allah. And I used to teach my son to finish our Christian prayers by saying, Allah, Allah, Allah. Freaked out his grandpa, but he needed to get out of his comfort zone to realize that there was an alternative viewpoint. The same thing about the treatment of drugs. In Europe, a joint is about as exciting as a can of beer. And I think we need to bring that home, that the sky did not fall in Europe when they stopped arresting pot smokers. Now, a trip is a lot like a trip. Whether it's a passport or a joint that got you there, you're going somewhere and it's fun. Now, if you can't afford to travel, you can travel vicariously with the help of a little marijuana, I think. I love to go up into our cabin high in the mountains in Washington State. Give me a little excuse to relax there, pull out a National Geographic. Pretty soon I'm climbing Mount Everest. You know, I can feel the altitude. I can feel the danger is palpable and the jubilation when I summit. It's really quite nice. When you travel and you smoke a little pot, I think you get travel squared. You get super travel. I don't know if you've done that, but travel's good. And travel can be better. I never smoked pot until I was a young adult in Afghanistan. I was pretty determined not to let peer pressure make me do something that I didn't know I wanted to do or not. I got to Afghanistan, and it's just what you do. It's going with, what the locals do, you know. There's a rest stop on your bus ride across the country. Everybody's sitting in a circle watching a goat get slaughtered and passing around a bong. Okay, I guess this is Afghanistan. You stand on the rooftop of your hotel and torchlit chariots are going by. You swear the light bulbs are breathing and people are eating soup with their hands. And then you go to Nepal and you get a chance to meet with the living virgin goddess, and all of a sudden the leech is attacking you in slow motion, determinedly coming end over end at you, and a little girl says, Namaste. When you read that in your journal, you don't know where you were high and where you were straight, you know. You can kind of say, that's too dreamy to be real. I must have been high, or maybe Nepal's just that good. I honestly don't know. I read a few years later and I just go, man, Nepal is good. Or I don't know, maybe the pot was good there, but it was a good experience. When I do a travel writing workshop, people ask me for some tips, and I say, well, play with perspective. Play with lighting. You know, photographers play with lighting. Shoot into the sun, break some rules. And as a writer, I find that if you've had a little experience traveling in my case and smoking some pot, and journal writing, it heightens your ability to be an observer. Most of what you write seems great when you write it, and obviously the next morning it's not that great. But, you learn skills that stay with you, that really give you an ability to twist reality a little bit and look at it in the way Picasso might look at something as a cubist. You take this vase, you break it, and you spread all the shards on a canvas, and you can see the whole thing at the same time. That's just a fun challenge for us who are so raised in one way to see things. You can sit on a bed in Cairo and study a fly rubbing his front feet together and know that's the time you can kill him, when he rubs his feet together. You can look at Michelangelo's David, and you can actually see him sizing up the giant. And you can also see Michelangelo's point that David is sizing up the darkness of medieval Europe and slaying it as a triumph of humanism. When you're traveling, you can go to Bali and hear a gamelan orchestra churning and these quivering long fingernails of the dancers under a full moon. And boy, you've got lots to write about. And when you're in the Netherlands, you walk on those back streets and it's like you're in a Vermeer painting. All of that carbonates your experience. As a tour guide, it's just in my blood. For 25 years, I've taken groups around trying to make their experience more vivid. And I remember when I went to Morocco with a group once, just 8 people and me in a little hill town in Morocco, Chefchaouen. It's a place in the Rif Mountains, famous for its marijuana. And we were all a little on edge because it's scary when you're in Morocco. I know it was a long time ago and we didn't know what was up. And we're walking through this village and it's just like biblical. It's just incredible, otherworldly kind of experience. Suddenly a man in a flowing robe steps out of a dark alley with a pipe and he says, "Do you want to smoke some hash?" And I looked at him and I looked at my group and they're all like this. And I looked at him again and I said, "Yes, I do." And I was just being a good tour guide. I knew my group would never touch it, and I knew they were scared to death, but I wanted them to have the experience of being high in Morocco. So as a good, hard-working tour guide, I got high, and I narrated the experience to them through the rest of that town as we paddled up those rivers of cobblestones, and we looked into people's little glimpses of their daily life through their candlelit windows. And it was quite a good experience, and I think it was an example of how you can carbonate things when you look at it a certain way.
Thank you for downloading the NORML Daily Audio Stash, the growing truth about cannabis. We are produced by the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws in Washington, D.C. Our executive producer is Alan St. Pierre. Our deputy director is Paul Armentano. Our webmaster is Brian Judy. And web production is provided by Red Aphid Interactive Media. As always, you can catch up on the latest information about marijuana at www.norml.org. And you can interact and download from our Audio Stash blog at stash.norml.org. For everyone here at NORML, I'm your host, Radical Russ Belville, hoping all your harvests are bountiful and your encounters with law enforcement are non-existent. Leave you today with the reminder that I'll be at the Cypress Hill Smokeout in San Bernardino this weekend, and you can catch NORML's show live, broadcasting live from that event. Just check out live.norml.org for more information. On tomorrow's Stash, we're going to bring you a portion of the athletics panel that we had at NormalCon, which features the wrestler Rob Van Dam, mixed martial artist Toby Greer, and former NFL All-Pro Mark Stepnoski. And of course on Wednesday, our Cannabis Science with Dr. Mitch Earlywine. Thanks for downloading the podcast. We'll see you tomorrow. And until next time, take care of each other, tokers.